Hello, everyone. Welcome you to the UNIBEN Alumni Series with Kevin and Mokau. This is a show where we have a chat with alumni of the University of Benin, men and women that have passed through the four walls of one of the greatest tertiary institutions in West Africa, the University of Benin. We trace their journeys while students of the institution and what they are doing currently. And we intend to use this this series, to motivate the current student and also fellow alumni of the institution of the University of Benin. I will be your host for the show. And, I promise it's going to be exciting, educative, and informative as well. And on today's episode, we'll be chatting with a former student union president of the University of Benin. He is currently a lecturer in the Department of Political Science of the University of Benin. He was Principal Private Secretary to the former Minister for State for Petroleum, Dr. Ibe Kachiku. Today we have Prince Harrison Ehimiyen is joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, for joining us for today's show. We really appreciate you for honoring our invitation. Thank you.
Harrison Ehimiyen is an astute administrator and academician with cognate experience in public administration, leadership, governance, oil and gas, crisis management, and conflict resolution. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science and Public Administration, a Master of Science degree in International Relations, as well as a diploma in law, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in International Relations, all from the University of Benin. Prince Harrison, as he is fondly called, was once the Student Union President of the University of Benin. Prince Harrison is passionate about leadership, youth development, women empowerment, and more. He has attended several courses in leadership and development in Nigeria, Canada, the USA, and Austria. He holds a leadership certificate from Harvard Boston, USA. He is also an alumnus of study of the University State Institute of Student Leaders, SUSI, and completed a U.S. exchange program on leadership and community development at Arkansas State University, USA. Prince Harrison was later employed as a lecturer in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, now the Political Science Department at the University of Benin, before embarking on leave upon his appointment as the Principal Private Secretary to the then Group Managing Director of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) and Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Professor Emmanuel Ibe Kachiko. He is a doctoral fellow with the Institute of Leadership, Manpower and Management Development, fellow, the Institute of Professional Managers and Administrators of Nigeria, and fellow, the Institute of Management Consultants and Certified Management Consultant, FIMC CMC. He has been a pastor for over 13 years and is currently the national pastor of Rock of Ages Christian Assembly International Incorporated and lead pastor of the Abuja branch. He is married and blessed with children.
Thank you, Comrade Kaka. Thank you for this invitation. It's a privilege and honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go straight into business. We know why we're here. It's for you to tell us your connection with the University of Benin, how it started, how it's going, and all that. We want to learn. We want to trace your journey. We want to listen to it. We want you to, it's not just going to be entertaining. I know you're going to reveal some key points for us to, that will help us, that will help the current students and even fellow alumni of the university. We'll go straight into the very first question, Mr. Harrison. Your choice of University of Benin, was it your first choice or was it because of proximity as an Edolite? Was it because it was close to you? And what informed your decision to study at the University of Benin? I know you have a diploma in law from the university, you did part-time, then you went to BSc Political Science, did a master's with the university, so you are a true UNIBEN ambassador. So what informed your decision to study at the University of Benin?
First and foremost, thank you for this initiative. Every of your outing has always led to promoting our alma mater and further giving it visibility and exposure. So your love for UNIBEN, no doubt, is the reason why this idea was also bettered. And I'm quite honored to be your first interviewer at this, your first guest at this median edition. Straight to your question, my name is Prince Harrison Ehimiyen. Most probably, I just prefer people call me Prince Harrison, but my surname is Ehimiyen. You just asked a question regarding my journey into University of Benin. My journey into University of Benin started many, many years ago. I grew up in Benin, from village in Owa West. I came to Benin, and while I was in Benin, I lived directly opposite University of Benin, 19th Street to be precise. Yeah, the first house in 19th Street. As you enter 19th Street, the first house on your left used to be our company. It used to be a school, International Home School. Yes, it used to be called International Home School, owned by former headmistress of staff school, Mrs. Adegoke. They are from Abeokuta. My dad was the headmaster of International Home School. So we were living inside International Home School. The BQ was inside the compound. So that was where we were living. And just directly opposite UNIBEN. So you can see that all the way we were living there.
Yeah, so it was very easy for you to decide. It's just for you to cross to
it was just easy for me to get into UNIBEN. And we were also going to UNIBEN to fetch water. Then there used to be borehole in BDPA and water board supplying water tap in BDPA. So once water board doesn't supply water, we all the BDPA children, we just go into UNIBEN to fetch water. Where you have the shop now, inside University of Benin, that front line, where you have the shop, there used to be a tap. There used to be a tap in those fields where we usually fetch water close to the security post. If that one is not running, we have to go down to a big water center close to the Catholic Church and close to UDSS. Those were the places we were fetching water. So my romance with University of Benin started way back, even when I was not a student. And from there, the love for University of Benin was developed. I had cousins who were also University of Benin. So they would stay in our house during the holiday, move their things to our house during the break. When school resumes, they will come back. So I visit them in the hostel once in a while. They were ladies, they were girls. So I visit them in the hostel once in a while. So at that point, I fell in love with the environment, and I was seeing movement of people. 19th Street used to be the most busiest place in UNIBEN, main gate or BDPA at that time. The whole of the front of opposite UNIBEN, there used to be shops there. It used to be shops, various bookers and joints. That was what you used to have there. It was really a busy place at that time. So from there, I fell in love with UNIBEN. There was no other place to go to outside UNIBEN with the kind of exposure I had. I was in Mr. Lee Secondary School at that time, but everybody knew already. If you grew up within that environment, the only university you would want to go to is possibly University of Benin. So with the exposure I had, it was imperative that I go to University of Benin. Unfortunately, I wrote series of jams about 3 times. The first jam, I failed the first jam because my dad asked me to do accounting. So I did maths during the jam. I did maths, English, economics, and there was a CROS also. It used to be 4 courses. But I passed English. English, I passed. Economics, I didn't do well in economics. Maths, I failed woefully. CROS, I passed. So this, because I failed maths and economics, I didn't do well. So I wrote JAMB again the second time, accounting. It was also a failure. So the third time, I just told myself, no, I need to go and study what I want to study, not what my dad asked me to study. So I did law. I did law for my JAMB. I did English, CROX, government, and which other course again? I can't remember. Other economics or so. I passed. I got about 258 in JAM. But then it used to be
what year was this? What year was this?
If I can remember, that should be around 2000, 2001. Around 2000, 2001, I did that. I didn't get admission. So when they posted the names used to be posted on notice board. There used to be notice board close to security post. That's Uniben Security Center.
When I was in UDSS, I used to see people.
In fact, they used to do the posting overnight. So they will post the names around 1, 2 a.m. People will gather there to now check name. In fact, you have to be falling on top of each other to be looking for name. So eventually that didn't happen. I think the last JAM I passed was around 2000, 2001. The last two I failed was 98, 99. Those are the ones I failed. So the one I passed was around 2000, 2001, thereout. But eventually my name didn't come out after the third attempt. So at that point, I just told myself I was going to go to the north. I did another JAM. This one I passed was 2000. I did another JAM in 2001. I filled Uniben as first choice. I filled Unijos as second choice. Uniben didn't take me. I passed, but my name didn't come out. So I started my journey to Unijos. The night I was to go to Unijos, I was to take their bus that usually carry goats and cow to Jos from Adoawa. I was prepared to embark on that journey. My friend in nursing hostel, her name is Agnes. We were together in Winners Campus Fellowship. She told me not to go, that I should just try one more time. The Unijos is too far from Benin. I heeded to her advice. I took a diploma form. So we wrote diploma exam. I couldn't wait again. We wrote diploma exam. My name also didn't come out for the diploma. Again, my name didn't come out for diploma. So I just made up my mind I wasn't going to kill myself. So I said I was going to go on holiday. It was a vacation period. I think it was around December time. I needed to go visit my mom in Delta. And there used to be a lady friend. She was a friend. She was a senior friend. She teaches in Continental Group of School because then I was a security guy in Continental. So the lady was to borrow me or give me some money to embark on that journey. So I followed her to a place where she was doing house lesson for some children. So the man operates a mechanic workshop. I don't know if the man is still there. Along Federal Road, before Old Uniland, the right side, there used to be mechanic workshop there.
Yeah.
Great. The man's name is Mr. Friday. So he was to pay the lady the money for the lesson the lady did for the children. So I followed the lady there. While we were there, the man knew me as gate man in Continental. So the man just looked at me and said, oh boy, you not go school today? In my mind, I said, sir, I not day school. Oh. He said, why you not day school? And I say, I do Jambo. Uniben not take me. Oh. I do diploma too. They not take me. He said, you do this diploma? I say, yes, sir. They not take me. Oh. He said, the admission officer, I just finished in car just now. The man just come up for my shop now. You sure say you write him? I say, oh, guy, I write him. Oh. He said, no worry. Make I call the man. So right there with him in his workshop, he called the man. Late Professor Ebewele was the admission officer. So he called Professor Ebewele. Professor Ebewele now told him to come and see him in his office. So the man took me to Ebewele's office. His office was in main auditorium. That was where his office was as admission officer. So Ebewele now asked me if I wrote the exam. I said, yes. I gave him all my details. He checked, he called the secretary. They brought out the book. He checked the names for law. My name was number 3 on the law list, but my name was not among the names that was published on the board. The man now said, I should go and do clearance in Faculty of Law. And I said, but my name didn't come out, sir. How am I going to do the clearance? He said I should just go there. That before I get there, they would have spoken to the people in law. So that was how I went to Faculty of Law the next day. They now sent my name to law. It was Demo. Demo was in charge of the people who were doing the clearance. That was how I went to law, did the clearance between 21, after Obey Razak crisis. So I did the clearance. That was how my journey in University of Benin started with diploma in law.
Oh, you are indeed a man of grace because with this account you just gave, it shows that the grace has always been there. So, Mr. Harrison, why didn't you continue with law? Why, after the diploma, why did you have to switch to public admin or political science? Yeah, was there any particular reason?
It was a sorry state for me because law had always been my choice. While I was in diploma in law, I never envisaged I was not going to continue with law. I was the class rep of my diploma in law class. I was very visible, and I did everything I could to gain direct entry admission. During the direct entry process, people I took to lecturers to beg them to consider for direct entry admission, their names came out for direct entry, but my name didn't come out for direct entry. Whatever happened, I had no idea. And that was how I missed the direct entry. I did another direct entry again. Now, when I lost that first direct entry, Professor Asegwa told me he would help me for political science. Yes, he's now SA. So he actually did help me, Professor Asegwa and Professor Botari. They helped me and secured a direct entry in political science and public admin, but I rejected it because I wanted law. So that phase passed. I tried again for another direct entry. Barrister Osadolo said he was going to help me. Eventually, he didn't. Maybe he did. My name didn't come out, but my name didn't come out for the second one. So Professor Botari now advised me that I have lost one already. Instead of me losing another one, that I should embrace political science, because political science was my second option, that I should embrace political science since law didn't come. That was how my journey in political science and public admin started. Now, I went to political science believing that was my intention, that after the academic session, I would do a switch back to faculty of law. Yes. So when I started the journey, the reality dawned on me that law usually do not accept people into their faculty, but they will always sign out people out of their faculty. Yeah, so when that reality dawned on me, I didn't have the option but to continue with political science. Even before political science, when I lost that first direct entry, I went to BPA. I started part-time in BPA. I did part-time in BPA for like 2 years.
Let's go into your time as SUG president. As a former student of the university myself, I know it is not easy to emerge as class rep. Then we're talking about this #1 student of the university. How was that period for you? From the campaigns to the election to your time in office? What were the challenges? What was your biggest challenge that you faced as SUG president? I have a particular question I want to ask regarding your time as SUG president, but I want you to go first. Just tell us your time, how you got to that office.
My sojourn as SUG president Uniben was actually great, and I do not think anybody in University of Benin can repeat the way I eventually stepped into the union. Before I became SUG Uniben president, I had always wanted to be president. Don't forget, I told you I grew up in BDPA 19th Street. I saw union people. I saw union activities, and I saw the activism, strike, protest organized by union. Oberazak crisis, I experienced it. Makolise crisis, Mark was in charge of the NAS edition in Uniben during his time. I experienced it. Duvier, I experienced it because I was already in school. So all of those things, even before I went into Uniben, when I saw them, I knew I was going to be. Now, what motivated me was, there was a day I was in our compound. Inside the compound, we just watched people walk past 19th Street. You could see the teeming population of students. Some are going to school, some are returning to school. And one day I saw a Luther jet on a Peugeot. And a guy was in front of the Luther jet. The Peugeot was driving behind the guy. And some students were just around the guy. So I asked my cousin, who was a student of Uniben at that time, her name is Uju. And I asked her, I said, who are all these people? She said they are union people. That person they are walking around and the van is driving behind is their SUG president. And I said, wow, I would also like to be SUG president so that people can drive that way. So she laughed, just the way you laughed. She laughed and we all laughed. But I made that statement with a conviction. That was the beginning of the beginning for me. So everything I did before I came into Uniben was to take me closer. So when I didn't get the admission, I needed to do diploma. All was to keep me University of Benin. When I didn't get the direct entry admission, I wanted a part-time. All was to keep me. The reason I left part-time was because I was advised that if I ever want to be SUG president, I cannot be while studying via part-time. So I quickly accepted the political science. I rejected ab initio. That was how the process started. While I was in law, I had always wanted to be. So from day one, if you followed me on social media, there was a post I made recently. The then director of socials, senior man, Dr. Saibovo, 1 minute ago. Yes, 1 minute ago.
Yeah.
He just reminded me that there was during Uwagboy's election, he met with me, and while we were talking, I told him I was going to be SUG president, and I eventually became. So I was talking my vision, and everything I did was taking me closer to becoming SUG president. During the diploma days, it was opportunity for me to build bridge across the various faculties. In that my diploma sets, people who didn't get direct entry back to law, some went to Faculty of Arts, some went to Social Sciences. They were just scattered. Some went to education, some went to Ekenwa. So we were spread across. When I got into political science, because of my diploma experience, I already had friends in various faculties because I was involved. So the idea to become president was on. While I was in political science, I was told the Faculty of Social Science has never produced. It's going to be difficult because things, yes. I was actually the first SUG president in Faculty of Social Science. Nobody from Faculty of Social Science has ever been SUG president. So a whole lot happened. I think, what's his name? What's his name? Oh, I've forgotten his name. Mikey Guinea. No, Mikey Guinea was the first man.
Okay.
Yes, Mikey Guinea was in sociology.
Oh.
He was in sociology. He was former SUG president. But nobody from political science has ever been SUG president. Yeah. So that period, it was difficult. In my time, we were about 19 of us that veered for SUG election. Presidency, 19 of us went for that election. 19 candidates.
Cleared candidates.
Yes.
Candidates. Whoa.
Yes. 19 people were cleared for that election. In fact, some were not cleared. At the mid of the campaign, names came out. My very good friend of Yahweh was cleared. Of Yahweh was cleared during when the campaign was on. So 19 of us were cleared. At some point before the election proper, one candidate was shot dead. One candidate was shot dead from Faculty of Law. Doing was shot dead before the election, before even the date we voted. So within the period, it was really a tough one for all of us. And I was the least amongst us in terms of finance. I didn't have people who supported me financially. I only had God on my side. But one thing I can tell you was that I won my elections on my knees. I prayed like I never prayed before. I fasted and prayed, in fact, in a sport complex. People who were part of my prayer team who joined me in prayer, they already know what I was talking about. In terms of finance, I didn't have money to campaign. I didn't spend up to 80,000 naira in that election. I can tell you for free. I didn't borrow money for that election. I prayed my way through. I had grace, I had favor during that election. The grace and favor was practical. That when we were going for campaign in halls of residence, people could literally hold my poster and they would tell Prince Harrison is the one I will vote for. When I will tell people I am Prince Harrison, they will look at my poster, look at me, they will say, no, you are not. So basically, the image that appeared on the poster that people were seeing was different from me as a person. So God actually came down in that election. I prayed to the point that I was telling God, this is what I want. And as a matter of fact, I was satisfied to have graduated from UNIBEN as SUG president than to make first class out of UNIBEN. It was that so serious. That was my goal. That was my objective. And the campaign were very, very serious. When the Bible said, when a man's way pleases God, his enemies would be at peace with him. It was a typical example of me. There were quite a lot of people who fell in line. I had a series of betrayers within that election process. My very guy who was supposed to be my campaign manager also opted at the dying minutes to contest against me, but it was not bad blood. We are still friends. What was important was that I won against them. I was the only candidate that gathered votes from different faculty. I didn't have the highest votes in every of the election, but I gathered votes from different faculty.
That's a great story to hear. The question I was referring to, I was not in UNIBEN then. I think I was still in secondary school while you were president. But we heard about the incident with the Nigerian army, the S&T bags. That story is still very famous till today. Yes, what happened? Please do not leave out any information, any details. What happened? What transpired? What we heard then was the Students' Union president was beaten up at S&T, was dragged there and all that. We did till today. I really do not know the whole story. How it came about and all that, I do not know. So I would like to hear directly from you, especially considering the powers and the influence of the SUG president then. So it was strange to hear such a thing. So what happened?
That was one incident that almost took my life. That incident almost took my life. It was really a sad day. That fateful day, we had earlier had a meeting in Parliament, and the interest was we must promote everything UNIBEN. UNIBEN started production of bottled water and pure water. And to further promote UNIBEN interest and UNIBEN products, Parliament, there was a resolution that any water that is not UNIBEN products should not be allowed inside the campus. That was the resolution. The whole essence was to promote our own and give it visibility. That was the whole idea. Now, while I was in the office that day, June 12th, one of my team members came to inform me that Faith Mark Pure Water, Faith Mark is just across Uniben on the other side, Faith Mark Pure Water in Dunkel for people to buy. And that was contrary to the resolution that we made. So in a bid to implement the resolution that we made, that we should promote only Uniben products. So I came down from my office and I saw the driver. So in Uniben, in activism, the normal activism, when you see that people are flouting your order, what you usually will do is to impound the vehicle and the products in June 12. I did that with Coca-Cola. We had issues with Coca-Cola, and what I did was to impound their vehicle in O3. So I impounded the vehicle of the vehicle they used in distributing the Faith Mark water. I impounded it in June 12. So I left we took the key. I told my guy to take the key and impound the vehicle, that they should go and call the owner. We now went back to the office. So while I was in the office, they came to tell me that the driver has made away with the vehicle. The key was with us. So how did the driver took the vehicle was something we had no idea. Now, my fear was that they could take the vehicle and they will now raise an allegation that we impounded the vehicle. The vehicle impounded, we should come and produce it. So that was what motivated me. So why the guy, when I came down, there used to be a driveway from June 12 to education. So I saw the guy driving through that pathway, through education, and he was running with the vehicle. So I entered my van. Myself, welfare, we entered my van. That was how we started chasing the guy. We chased the guy. Before we could get to main gate, the guy already drove out of school. So I continued the chase. That was how I chased him to S&T Barrack Gates. So when we got to S&T Barrack Gates, before the guy could turn from that open space to the barrack route, going inside the barrack, I blocked him. So the guy now said, the guy was now pleading. And I told the guy, take this vehicle back to where you took it from. So the guy now said, I should give him time, that let him go and call the owner, that the owner is inside the barrack. In my innocent response, and I said, no problem. I will stay with the vehicle while you go and call the owner. So that was how I stood with the vehicle. In less than 5 minutes, the guy now returned back with a military guy holding a gun. So the military guy now said, I should follow him inside the barrack. And I said, no, I don't have business with him. That my business is with the driver and this vehicle. That I've told him to take the vehicle back to where he took the vehicle from. So the military guy now said, he's talking to me. I'm challenging him. And I said, no, it's not a challenge. That I don't know him. It's this guy that I'm referring to. So before I could say Jack, the military guy held me on my trouser and jacked me up. So as soon as he held me and jacked me up, I held him back and jacked him. So the guy now said, oh, you are holding an officer. And I told him, you are holding a student union president again. So as the guy pushed me, I pushed him. As he dragged me, I dragged him. That was how we started dragging each other at the middle of the road. So the driver now went back to gates to go and tell other military guys that fighting their man. So that was how the other guys in battalion, they now came. At that point, when I saw them, I just told myself, if I perish, I perish. What vehicles, people that were moving, everybody stood still, vehicle parts. So when I already told myself, I'll die and I die, is either I die here.
What about the other comrades that were with you?
It was only welfare could Emiko couldn't do anything. When Emiko opened his mouth, Emiko only said, Do you know who you are? Oh, that's the president of University of Uniben. They just gave me one slap. And Miko fell under the anointing. So in my mind, I just told myself that we must die here today, but before I die, one person must die with me. That was the whole scenario. So as they held me, that particular one that held me, I never lost sight of the guy. I had him. The blood they were giving me, I was giving it to that guy. Everything I was receiving, I was giving it to that guy. So they dragged me from the road to the gates. When we got to the gates, they cracked their gun. Luckily for me, the bullet didn't come out. I don't know what stopped the bullet that day. They cracked it again. Bullet didn't come out. So they had Dr. Evaristus witnessed the same. So Dr. Evaristus now called the CSO and informed the CSO what was happening. So before management could come, I had received beating. Luckily, a senior officer was driving past. So a senior officer now saw the scenario and stopped. They now took me into as you enter S&T barrack, on your left, there is a small cubicle in that place.
Yeah.
So they now took me into that cubicle. So they took me into that cubicle. Already, the news has filtered into school. So students now mobilized. They said they were coming to protest. In fact, they were protesting moving down to barrack. So they were stopped. They now said if they come, they were going to shoot them. So that was how students now went to Russell to destroy Russell International School, Faith Mark. So they now carried out their anger on Faith Mark. So by the time I was now released via the management intervention, students said it was not going to be over. Usually at night, military guys are the one that does motorbiking in front of Uniben at night. They are the bike riders in front of Uniben at night. So because of that incident, students now came out at night. Every bike person they saw at main gates, they gave them the beating of their life. Every military guy they saw at main gates, they gave them the beating of their life, burnt their bike. So the issue now escalated. It was now students against the military. The issue escalated that students who rented apartments in S&T barracks were given a quick notice to leave S&T barracks. It became an escalation. So students said they were not going to stand down. So the riots became steady. While I was in UBTH receiving treatment, they could not quell the tension. So VC now needed to plead with me that I should come and beg students to douse their tool. So that was how I came back from UBTH and now addressed students. And at the end of the day, the whole thing now went down. Now, it went down, but it didn't end that way. NAS now picked it up. At that time, Jude happened to be NAS president. So they reported the incident to the military at the headquarters. It was on news and everything. Edo State government also picked it up. At that time, the present SSG was the chief of staff, Osarodio. He was the chief of staff at that time. So government also got involved. It was really an issue. So the pressure, I met with Ogie, I met with the government, National took it up. So at the end of the day, a panel was set up to probe into what happened. So the panel was, they had the panel in S&T, they invited me, invited a couple of people. So they now paraded some military guys and asked me that if I could identify any of them. Luckily, I was able to identify one of them. So I identified one of them. Unfortunately for the guy was beat to go for peacekeeping within that period. He was beat to go for peacekeeping. Now, because of that incident, he was to risk expulsion and termination. He was to be dismissed from military. He was to be stopped from going for that peacekeeping. So within that period where all of this was going through, he now deployed people to come and beg me. They were not begging me that I should please forgive them, that all of this was going to affect them negatively. And in my characteristics manner now, all of that was part of the union. So I forgave them and told the panel that I have forgiven them. But the guy was still punished, but he was not dismissed from the service. That was what happened. My action with military was not ill-conceived. It was being patriotic in defending UNIBEN product based on the resolution we had. But unfortunately, it went the way it went. That was my encounter with the military at SMT.
Oh, thank you for that that account, that detailed account. Can we say that is the one unforgettable memory you picked from the University of Benin?
Yeah, there were many. Yes, that's one. There were many of it. That's one of them. Founders Day crisis, where we needed to stop Ibori.
Oh, yeah, I heard that as well. Yes,
was also one of them. My crisis with management, where I have to address students at the various halls of residence, because students were banned from taking their baths from outside as against taking their bath from the bathroom. Students said they couldn't take their bath in the bathroom, so they were taking their bath outside. And the management was against it. And I had to go around the hostels and told students to be bathing outside against the other management.
But why?
Why? Because the bedroom wasn't conducive enough for them to have their baths. We had a dilapidating hostel, bedrooms were bad, toilets were bad. They couldn't go to toilets to go and defecate. They were doing it with short puts. So I
say that was a protest to ensure
management do something. Yes. So that was also one. The other one was when we stopped to Shomole from entering UNIBEN. We had to lead a protest to town and I had to shut down airports. I shut down the airports. Planes couldn't land. Planes couldn't take off. Those were my memorable days in University of Benin. They were quite difficult.
I would like to talk about the Chief Iboris incident. As a former UNIBEN boy himself, then as an alumnus of the university, we thought he could have had it easy to come into his former school, his alma mater. But what was the incident? Why was it stopped?
Now, the protest wasn't against Ibori per se. I didn't have issues with Ibori. My team never had issues with Ibori. The protest wasn't against Ibori. The protest for us, we saw Iboris coming as opportunity for us to make announcements. So Ibori became a victim of circumstance. The protest was not against Ibori. We were not targeting Ibori. We were only using the opportunity to press home our demand. Unfortunately, the then Vice Chancellor, I think he's late now, Professor Kubenje, he was not listening. Kubenje was not a listening Vice Chancellor. Anything you could tell him, the man wouldn't listen. So we saw that as opportunity to vent whatever we needed to vent. And again, people were cashing in on that, using Ibori to cash in. I got a call from the then governor of Delta State, Dr. Emmanuel Udwaga. I got a call directly from him. In his words, let me quote him. Mr. President, I said, Your Excellency, good morning, sir. He said, please, I want to beg you, name your price and allow my boss, that was what he said in his words, name your price and allow my boss come into University of Benin. And I told him, I said, unfortunately, sir, the protest is not against your boss. So I have no problem with your boss. He said, please, name your price. He said, everybody he relied on to make this happen failed him. Now, apparently, he was working with Edo State government. And he was working with one Michael Akpobire, who was then a student or so. Unfortunately, they came to UNIBEN and they were working with the then registrar. The then registrar was from Delta, one dark woman, I've forgotten her name, acting registrar. She's a Delta woman, one dark woman, average height. She's from Delta. So all of the people they were working with didn't have the capacity to stop me what I needed to do. I was not in good terms with the Edo State government at that time. Oshomole and Shaibu, I was not in their good book. So they could not tell me what to do. They couldn't talk to me and I would listen. Neither was I in good terms with the registrar. So everybody they were using didn't work. So the man asked them to send my number to him. So he called me. I told him, unfortunately, I cannot betray the interests of the student who voted me in office to lead them. That there is no price to name. And that was how I turned Udwagan down. And that was how we stopped Ibori. Now, we stopped Ibori from entering. But unfortunately for Ibori, he was still able to meander his way. He found his way through the fence, and eventually, while we were at main gate, we locked everywhere. We were told while we were at main gate that his Bori is already in main auditorium. How the man got into main auditorium, we didn't know. So we have to move the protests back to main auditorium. And we shut down the activities in main auditorium that day. In all fairness, Ibori actually called me that day, and he made a promises. He promised me a car, he promised me some money, and he promised to build a hostel for Uniben. He promised to give us
sorry, the car he promised, was it for the union or for you?
No, he promised me a personal car. He promised me.
If you are not protesting against him, why was he promising you these things, promising you personally?
Now, his action was that for us to do what we did against his coming. Don't forget, at that time, Ibori was already a voice.
Okay.
So he felt the bravery.
No.
He admired the bravery and the tenacity that we could do what we did. Even though we knew that he was involved, we still went ahead to do that. So he saw that as bravery, and he needed to appreciate the fact that there are still people against all odds who could still stand for their belief. That was the reason he did that. But unfortunately, I didn't go back to him to collect those things because I saw it that it was going to be betrayal of the people I was leading. That was why I never returned back. He told me to come to Ogara to come and collect those things. But after that, I didn't go. At the end of the day, I made some pronouncements, quell the people. We still allowed the things to go, but we made our statements.
Yeah. Thank you for that response. Let's talk about your time with the Ministry of Petroleum with Dr. Ebe Kashiku. I can remember during the twilight of towards the end of Professor Oshodi's tenure as Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin, you were offered employment as a lecturer in the Department of Political Science. It was still Political Science and Public Administration at then. Then about a year after or so, you were called on national duty to serve as Principal Private Secretary to Dr. Ebe Kashiku, who was the GMD of NLPC and was Minister for State for Petroleum as at then. You served with him for about 4 years, if I'm correct. What is that one attribute you took from Uniben, your time in Uniben? Being SUG president, being class rep, have a diploma certificate from the University from Law, BSc, Masters from the Department of Political Science. What's the attribute you took from the University of Benin that helped you in the discharge of your duty as personal private secretary to Dr. Ebe Kashiku?
Thank you, Kakal. As rightly posited, one of the things that stood me out against all odds was the Uniben spirit of never say never. That stood out. You may not be academically sound. When I mean academically sound, you may not be a first-class product. But anybody who has gone through the 4 walls of the University of Benin cannot be silenced anywhere. I don't know how that happens, but practically anyone who has gone through Uniben and Uniben has gone through the person can never be silenced anywhere. At that point, you will not be your certificate is not what is speaking. It is you that is speaking. And that stood me out in the course of my service with my principal. I came in very late to working with him because at that point he was already a GMD. So I met already made team on ground. And when I came in from Uniben as a lecturer working with him, the exposure was minimal. The exposure was minimal. I was just a classroom lecturer. And all I have seen was just the classroom environment. Apart from the fact that I traveled in 29 while I was SUG president to US, sponsored by US government on a leadership training. Outside that, my exposure was basically classroom. But what stood me out was that realizing I'm a product of the University of Benin, I served as a class rep, I served as SUG president. I could not allow anybody and anything sweep me off while I was there. It gave me the inner strength to push my way through and solidify my position with my principal. Because while I was there, I came in as a last member of the team. I had internal opposition who were fighting me not to gain stability. But the ruggedity and the resilience of coming from University of Benin were the things I placed on the ground that eventually gave me the way, adding to the fact that God was involved. Those were the things that worked for me, not necessarily the certificates. You can get a good certificate and you do not have the capacity to defend your certificate. So everybody who has gone through University of Benin, whether you are served or you served at a student level or not, for as long as you went through Uniben and Uniben went through you, you cannot be in a place and they will silence you.
Yeah, I quite agree with that. Yeah. You came back to the University of Benin after your time with the Honorable Minister for States. With considering the network you made, the connections you made while on national duty, why did you come back to university? Because I will assume that you had other options. Yeah, after your time with the minister. You could have pulled up with private companies or even public and all that, but you came back to the University of Benin to continue as a classroom teacher, as a lecturer in the Department of Political Science. What was that? What motivated that move?
Number one, can I be honest with you, Kaka?
Go ahead, yes.
If there is any decision I regret returning back to Uniben.
Whoa. Why?
Yes. I regret returning back to Uniben because things didn't work out as planned.
Okay.
You see, there's something about us. We oftentimes do not value what we have until we lose it. When I returned to Uniben, I had plans of returning to Uniben and how my return was going to benefit Uniben. Number one, I wanted to complete my PhD that I couldn't complete while I was away. And I felt that if I don't, it was going to affect me going forward. And that obviously I could have done anywhere else.
Yeah.
So when I say I regret, it's one of the reasons. Now, upon returning to Uniben, The visibility that I needed to create for Uniben, Uniben didn't buy into it. They didn't buy into it. There were lots I needed to put on ground. There were lots I needed Uniben to benefit from. So I felt, okay, it will be better upon my returning. I will be the driver, driving those things, using my network so that Uniben can benefit from it. Those were the things. So it wasn't basically on my personal gain.
Yes.
I wanted to give back to the system, for a system that I have benefited so much from. So mine was to see, in terms of the money, I don't have problem with money. What to eat was no longer a problem for me. Network I already had. But I wanted a situation whereby, let me use this window to advance the interest of Uniben and see how Uniben can further be projected and benefit from what I have done. Being the one driving it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, upon returning, that didn't happen again. And I didn't want to resign. So when I now wanted to go back, Uniben now told me I cannot go on a leave again, except I complete 1 full year with them.
Oh.
Yes, that I have to complete 1 full year, having done 2 years, 2 years, another 2 years, making it 4 years. I must complete 1 full year before I can then now apply for another leave. And I didn't want to resign. So those were the reasons why I now needed to stay. But it was a decision that I regretted. Ordinarily, I would have tendered my resignation letter and move on.
Oh, that's quite a sad story to hear. And I think I can remember during the time of your return, or while you were still personal private secretary, you were trying to, I think you were trying to bring in Dr. Ebe Kachiku to come into the Faculty of Law. Yes, to as honorary lecturer. I don't know if that's the term. Yeah, how did that pan out? How did that see the light of the day?
During the then Vice Chancellor, after Oshodi left, the Vice Chancellor that came on board,
Professor
I had
Ramsey.
wanted, I had wanted to attract some projects to Uniben, but the man wasn't forthcoming. I knew what we were doing for other schools, and I spoke with him. It was so sad that I saw things we were doing for other universities, and I couldn't do it for my school, just because somebody was in a position who obviously didn't deem it fit to, I don't know the adjective to use. It was really sad. I pleaded with this man. I gave instances, these and these and these are the things I needed to bring to Uniben. The petroleum department was to be, there were quite a lot, but it didn't work out. I don't know why the man didn't want to, it's just so sad. So I also wanted to tie my principal in as a visiting lecturer so that they can benefit. It still didn't work. I don't know why that happened with the chief executive at that time, but with these people who are in with Madam, they were able to get my boss in as a visiting professor in Faculty of Law. Madam was the one who did that. I think now they're trying to renew it. We did that last year as a visiting professor in Faculty of Law. And within the period, my boss has been. The reason I did that was simply because I wanted Uniben to benefit from the wealth of experience and his exposure and the things he's doing. He's doing it for other schools. He's a visiting professor to Bayes University. He's a visiting professor to Afe Babalola University. He's a visiting professor to Harvard University. And I know what he's doing. He is not from Uniben. But I just felt, okay, the least I can do for University of Benin is to see how I can expose Uniben to benefit from some of these things. When the other man didn't put in interest, well, Uniben lost a whole lot because of what we were supposed to do, but the man wasn't forthcoming. But with Madam, the only thing I could do is what I am doing now, just to see how Uniben can benefit. But it was a sorry state. It was a sad one. And you really can't cry more than the bereaved. That was my state with the then Vice Chancellor. There was nothing I could do. since he was not interested.
We're quite fortunate we could not get anything from the whole arrangement then. Looking back, as a student of the university, while you were a student, what will you have changed? What would you have liked to change then? What were those things that you felt uncomfortable with, that you think, if you had the powers, could have changed it?
Thank you, Kakao. This question was the reason I initiated SUG dues. In my days as SUG president, there was no SUG dues. As we came on board, we needed to initiate SUG dues just to ensure that we are able to change a few things. Because if you are not in good terms with management, management will starve you of funds. If you are in good terms with them, they will give you money. So you were basically at the apron string of management. And in my characteristics manner, I wasn't a yes sir person. I had my issues with management. There were times we worked together. In fact, my time as Uniben SUG president was full of crisis. I still remain the only SUG president that worked with 4 vice chancellors in the history of the University of Uniben. I remain the only SUG president that worked with 4 vice chancellors at a go. I am the only SUG president that worked with 2 or 3 dean of students at a go. Only SUG president that worked with 2 or 3 dean of students. I worked with Unwanzi. I worked with Kubenje. I worked with Ibenidio, Professor Mrs. Ibenidio.
Okay,
Then I worked with Oshodi.
Okay.
So those were the 4 vice chancellors I worked with. No SUG president has ever worked with 4 different vice chancellors. In terms of dean of students, I worked with Professor Edi Ragbe. From Edi Ragbe, I went to Omogbai, Professor Omogbai. I worked with Professor Omogbai. Then I worked with Professor Idu. Those were the 3 dean of students that I worked with. So my time was characterized with crisis. It was a major crisis. And my coming into Uniben at that time, God already saw it. God brought me in for stability. I can assure you, if it was somebody else that was SUG president, Uniben would have been shut down. Because the VC crisis that happened immediately once he was leaving was so much that people brought coffee inside the University of Benin on VC election. I was called by one of the aspirants to senior staff quarter. He gave me a blank check. I don't know if the man is still alive today. I can't mention the man's name, one of the aspirants. He gave me a blank check. I won't forget that day. I was watching Mayu match in 19th Street when that call came. I left after the match, drove the van to his house in senior staff quarter. He gave me a blank check. All that he wanted me to do was to fill any amount of my choice. What did he want me to do? He just wanted me to lead a protest. Let them shut down University of Benin. He just wanted them to shut down University of Benin. Since he wasn't going to be the vice chancellor announced, let them shut down the vice chancellor, the University of Benin. Let everybody go home. I remember that day. I told him, I said, sir, with all due respect, I love money. I need money. But this is not the way I want to make the money. I walked out of his room. I had an opportunity to make money. So if I had anything I needed to change, the manner and way SUG dues is being administered is number 1 thing I needed to change. Because that was not what I had in mind when I did the SUG dues. It got to a point, management called me and my speaker to convince them why we needed SUG dues. Rumors were that we needed to use the money for ourselves. I was able to convince the management, and I told them, for them to know the genuinity on this course, they should press the dues. That after I have handed over, the dues should start with the next person that will take over from me. So the dues was not for me. The dues was for the union to be able to use it to address issues that affect them. What are those issues? Make the halls of residence conducive for them to stay. Make the classroom environment conducive for them to stay.
Considering how the money is spent today, I know you still have maybe little information about how the student union is run and all that. Do you think that's your initiative? Do you think the motive behind your initiative is still what is being practiced today? Do you think the student union government are able to manage the funds and channel it for things you envisage during inception?
Capital No, from the available information and what I have seen and observed and heard over time, the answer is capital No.
And who do you think is to blame for that? Is it the management or the officials of the students' union government?
Both parties, management and officials.
So going forward, what would you advise? Would you advise the student union government to be solely in charge of these funds, or this present arrangement with, I think the management still has influence about the disbursement of the funds? So which arrangement do you think will be better and will benefit the students more?
What we proposed was the management of the fund should be union, but to be monitored by management, so that an aspect where management will monitor. So before you eventually hand over and graduate, they will audit you. If you have embezzled money, they will show it. Just the way they do in secular environment, they audit accounts. They will audit you. If there is a mismanagement of any fund, they will call you to order. You either pay or you fail to graduate. So it has to be a partnership arrangement. Those were the things we proposed, and that is what I will still ask them to go ahead to do. The manner and way the union is being run now, especially from the management aspects, quite frankly, I must be very sincere. Yes, I'm a staff of University of Benin. I'm still a lecturer at University of Benin. And one thing I can assure you is that thus far, the management of the student union, especially from the student affairs division, it has not been positive. It has not been positive. There's always a gap between the student affairs and the vice chancellor. There's always, and some of these things, not until you are privy to know what happens with student union environment, you may not be able to do well. You may not be able to do well. One of the most excellent students, dean of student Uniben had ever had is Edi Eragbe. Edi Eragbe. Edi Eragbe wasn't just too fantastic. It's just that the man worked with people. He had a listening ears. I know how many times I could drive to Edi Eragbe's house, have a meeting with him. I know how many times Edi Eragbe will call us as father and gather his children. So when you have that kind of cordial relationship, when he asks you to do something, you obviously can say no. So the manner and way it has been handled, ranging from their clearance, ranging from the publicity, ranging from the management. You recall a couple of months ago, was it last year? There was a chaotic environment with students and management. A lot of things has been happening. So we need to, if I have the opportunity to meet with the vice chancellor, there are certain things I will tell her on. I've met with her on a different note, but not on a student union matter. And when you are not called upon on issues of this nature, you obviously won't be able to give in your best. And you know how Uniben system runs. If you are not a professor, if you are not a doctor, there are certain positions you cannot head in University of Benin. So sometimes what we do to the students and advisory, but I can tell you that they could do better.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Prince Harrison. On the concluding note, you are also a pastor. How are you able to manage these responsibilities as a lecturer in the Department of Political Science, as a pastor, and as a family man, obviously? How are you able to manage these responsibilities?
That's my source of strength. I'm first a pastor before every other thing. It's already part of me. It's something that I'm looking for the adjective to put it. It comes first. Every other thing is secondary. The onus is on me to allow every other thing to align, and that is why I could move on with it.
Thank you very much. It was indeed a very revealing and exciting chat with you. I really appreciate you for honoring our invitation once more. Hopefully, we'll get to chat with you some other time. And on behalf of the crew, we say thank you very much for staying with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaka. Thank you to you and your team member. Thank you for having me on board. And I want to also pray that this new idea will go wider and better. Should you need any of my support, please, I'm just a call away. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. God bless you too.
Thank
you. That was really an engaging chat with Mr. Prince Harrison Ehimiyen, former Student Union President of the University of Benin and former Personal Private Secretary to the former Honorable Minister for State Petroleum, Dr. Ibe Kashiku. And to everyone watching us from around the globe, thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching. God bless.